This year, I can announce that our speakers are going to be right in line with that. We're going to have Dr. Keith Smith from the Surgical Center of Oklahoma City, who is also a co-founder of the Free Market Medical Association. If you don't know about Keith Smith, I would ask you to just Google the Surgical Center of Oklahoma City, one of the very first surgical centers that has a menu of pricing on their website for bundled all-in surgical services. If you're doing any self-funded type of health insurance, you likely already know about Dr. Keith Smith and his surgical center there in Oklahoma City, working with plans, lowering claim costs for surgeries. We also are going to have another awesome speaker, Dave Chase with Health Rosetta is going to be there. And if you know anything about Dave Chase, you know about the books that he has written that have been, in my own personal life, just an amazing eye-opener when it comes to how healthcare has stolen the American dream and how we as agents have this huge opportunity to literally save America when it comes to the cost of healthcare and putting money back into employees' pockets instead of having healthcare be responsible for wage stagnation in so many of our communities. And I'm so much looking forward to those two individuals being at this conference. And if you don't come, you will miss an incredible, life-changing event, in my opinion.
Welcome to the RockstarsRocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of RockstarsRocking, where you hear me say it each and every week. I only invite on the biggest, the most bad, you know the next word, folks in the industry that are just doing well, right? Kicking, you know what, in both business, personal. They are the true rock stars. They are rocking it out. And guys, this week is no different. This week, everybody help me welcome my good friend in the industry, Kelly Fristoe, also referred to himself as a health insurologist. I love that. I've never heard that before. He is the president of financial partners for, forever, out of Wichita Falls, Texas. And most of you may know him more as the president of, get this, not just NABIP, that's new, but what about NAHU? I always said NAHU, and he is the last president of NAHU and the first president of NABIP. And we're going to get into all of that and more on this week's episode. Kelly, what's up, buddy? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show today. Thank you for the introduction. You know, when I think about being a rock star, that's a big deal. So
you look like a rock star. You got that rock star ZZ Top beard, man. You're ready to roll.
Yeah, I even wore my really good smelling cologne for you today. So
I love it. Well, all our listeners or viewers on YouTube, they are smelling it up. No doubt about it. That's not weird. Kelly, let me ask you this. I'm going to dive right into a bunch of stuff here. As we talked about right before we hit record. I mean, I don't have any pre-canned questions. Everybody knows that's not how I like to roll. But I want to take us back, right? You've been in the insurance employee benefits world for a number of years. According to LinkedIn, at least, it says you started Financial Partners back in early 1991. Actually, happy anniversary, because it says March of 1991, and we're recording this here in March of 2023. How crazy is that, my friend?
I know.
Tell me, how did you get into the insurance employee benefits business? Did you just wake up one day as a little boy and just say, "Mama, I want to sell insurance"? Is that what went through your mind?
Not at all. In fact, I was in college on my way to try to be a pharmacist. Thank goodness that didn't pan out, right? Had horrible grades, was having a hard time getting into pharmacy school. And I met my wife. She was a nurse in a hospital. I was actually a pharmacy technician working in the hospital and going to school to try to be a pharmacist. And I really thought that that's where I was going to end up. But through several times of trying to get into pharmacy school and failing at that, I decided, I'm not going to be able to support a family on a $7 an hour salary being a pharmacy technician for the rest of my life. And so I knew I needed to make a change, and I answered an ad in the newspaper. And I kid you not, here's what the ad said. If you can survive on $2,000 a month until your skills improve, this is the job for you. Come to this hotel room for an interview. So I went to this shady hotel for an interview, and they gave me a script to memorize and said, come back tomorrow and, do this script for us, and we'll decide whether or not to hire you. And it was a script to sell cancer, heart attack and stroke, and accident insurance down the street, door to door, floor to floor, until you could sell no more. And that was my introduction into the insurance business, which was really weird because, those were days that I was cutting my teeth, and I didn't make it. I tried that. I was on a temporary license at that time for 90 days, and I tried selling insurance, and it wasn't working, man. It was hard work. And through all that time, I was trying to take my insurance licensing exam. It took me 3 tries to pass the licensing exam. So I just say all that to say that I was a really slow starter in this business. And if it wasn't for my good wife and her good nursing job, we would have completely starved to death. So
wow.
I'm so thankful for that. But, just over time, I ended up getting my license. I ended up getting with a program that allowed me to actually, do the job of selling insurance and servicing clients, not just a memorized sales script. And because I knew that memorized sales script, going on the street trying to sell like a used car salesperson, not that those guys are bad. I'm just saying, it was kind of
it's a different era, Kelly. I mean, we're talking about, this was prior to 91. Was this the late 80s at this point, or very early 90s?
Yeah, late 80s. And basically, that's when I found out about our industry associations, not just NAHU, but also at that time it was NALU, the National Association of Life Underwriters. And so I
never even heard of that one.
Yeah, it's called NAFA now. They changed their name.
Got it. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so I got involved in those organizations, met people, and also found out that those were organizations that provided some learning tools, some training. And so I got involved in all that professional development. And that's really what has been where I have learned more about this organization, learned more about this industry through those organizations to better serve my clients. So it's been a long journey, but like you said, 30 years later, here we are, 30 years from whenever I started. And I'm the president of NABIP, and I love what I do. I love moving the needle forward on trying to fix healthcare, not just for the consumers, but for our entire industry, because things are changing big time. And you know that.
Yeah. I mean, so let's unpack this a little bit. So you started in the late 80s, you answered an ad, you wanted to make upwards of $2,000 a month, which granted, that's good money. I mean, I was only 8-9 years old at that point. We'll talk about that another time. Wink, wink, anybody listening? No, but with all seriousness, I had no idea, of course. And it's not something that lasted for you, but I didn't realize you attempted to start in the industry that I use the term enhanced benefits, or quote unquote, the voluntary benefits world. And that's not, it's interesting because I started in 1999, 2000 in that industry, and I'm still in that industry. But your story is not too different than mine. And I started in the DC Metro Baltimore area, not in a hotel, but I know exactly what you're talking about because they did that. And that was prolific over the course of the country for many of those carriers, and maybe still is. I'm not even sure anymore. But I love how you said, and you were fully able to embrace and admit that the pharmaceutical industry didn't work out, or excuse me, they to be a pharmacist didn't work out. And that you started on a temporary license. I don't even know if those exist anymore, but I remember honest to goodness, I don't remember if I started on a temp license or not. I know they talked about it, but I too failed my insurance license. I failed it once. And then the second time I failed only the life portion. So I had to go back and get the life side. So, anybody listening, I suspect you're in the benefits business and you can appreciate that, because I don't know. I'm sure a lot of you passed on the first try, but not everybody. It's not hard, but it's not easy. You definitely have to study and know your stuff. So flash forward, you started Financial Partners. You've been going strong for years. We're gonna dive really deep into NABIP, but before that, can you just give me a thumbnail print of what it is that you like to specialize in personally at Financial Partners in Texas? Because I know a lot of people know you in the industry. A lot of people have heard of you. Heck, they've seen you now on the cover of the America's Benefit Specialist magazine, if they didn't already know you. But they know you as the president of NABIP. They don't really know you deeply within the benefits world necessarily. And I know I certainly don't. So I'd love to just hear a thumbnail sketch of what you're passionate about within the benefit space.
Sure. So in the beginning, when you're trying to gather clients and the revenue that comes with that, you're willing to do just about anything that you can to sell and service a product and fill a need for a customer.
Sure.
So I found myself, doing as much life insurance as I could do. I didn't have enough gray hair back then to go out and get that $1 million or $10 million estate planning case.
You still don't have any gray hair.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, they don't know that.
It was one of those things. My mom was a nurse. My wife was a nurse. I had all that, 4 or 5 years of working in a pharmacy in a hospital system. And just the health insurance aspect of our business was so strong. That's just where I was, more accustomed to operating and all that terminology and that language and just the healthcare aspect of our business. So I gravitated to that over time, even though I tried to do the financial services and the investments and the Series 6 and 63. And
did you do that, or?
I did do that for a short period of time. Again, failed at that. I wasn't a big producer, but it was one of those things where, eventually it's just the health aspect of our business overtook me. And I had a real wise individual in the NAFA organization, as we were talking about my involvement in that organization, which I'm still a member of NAFA, have a great admiration for that side of the business and all the things that NAFA does. But they were lacking in the health insurance space. Health Underwriters at that time was big in the health insurance space. But long story short, that's where I went because of my history and just basically because of my environment with my mom being a nurse, my wife being a nurse, and my pharmacy experience. It took me into that healthcare world. And so I was advised that I should probably try to specialize in health insurance. And I think today, the idea of trying to be everything to everybody in this business, you'll fail.
Sure.
We are in an era where you need to specialize. And those people that are specialists, think about the physician world, the primary care doctor, even though it's a very important piece of care, but that primary care physician trying to do everything for everyone is probably the lowest revenue generator in the healthcare world, even though it's good money. But the specialists, the surgeons, the IST, the neurologist, the urologist, the oncologist, the orthopedist, the IST are the ones that really have a much higher income, and they're in a specialty, right? So that's what I wanted to do, is move over and become a health insurance specialist. And so what we do here basically, we still have the life insurance, we still have that available, but we specialize in the health insurance products. And because we're a small community, the health insurance specialty also incorporates a large block of individual ACA business, a large block of Medicare business, because that's still health insurance, a large block of small group, fully insured. And then, of course, we have our large employer market that we are trying to disrupt and operating as well as effectively as we can.
So you just uncovered one of the questions I was going to get to. Is you told me, you just told everybody how you came up with health insurologist, and it makes sense. I've never thought about that. I mean, I've always thought about subject matter experts, SMEs, SME, and that's really what you're describing. And I consider myself a subject matter expert, an enhanced benefitologist, if you will. I like that. I'm going to take that, my friend, because I think it's smart. And you're absolutely right. Not necessarily practicing general medicine as a generalist, but you're very deep and specific with what you describe. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, let's dive in. So tell me about when you met, you got involved in all these associations years ago, when you basically started and were in your business, but what made you want to take a deeper role? Because there's, you tell me, I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of members there are in NABIP, but there's so many more members that are not active and that aren't on boards and committees and getting involved in a more responsible manner, than there are folks that are. And you chose to take that step many years ago. What made you want to get more deeply and heavily involved in, at the time, again, NAHU, whichever part of the country you're from, and how you called it?
We have a lot of members that do get involved, and then they kind of stop being involved. Maybe it's a time thing. Maybe it's they're just trying to prioritize their life. Maybe they think it steals time away from them when they need to be focused on client activity or their business, and I get that. So here's my secret, and I'm a testament to this. Every year that I've gotten involved more and more in this organization and leadership role, whether that be at the local chapter level or at the state chapter level or at the national chapter level, my business has grown as a result of that. And I preach that everywhere I go. In fact, we were in CAP conference, and for those of you that have been, we have a leadership event there. It's highly attended. Stacy Fry and her group this year put that event on. If y'all know Stacy, she's a rock star as well. And I just got up for 15 minutes and I just told the story about how I have grown my business every year by being involved in this organization. And I keep testing that at these next levels of leadership to see if one of these years my business is going to go backwards as a result. And it never does. And I tell that story. I tell people, if you're hesitant about getting involved in your local chapter as a leader on that board of directors or at the state level or at the national level, and you talk yourself out of that, you're doing yourself a disservice. Get involved, test the system, and I promise you your business will grow as a result of that. So from a selfish standpoint, I kind of did it because I'm selfish that way. I want my business to grow. And I had a theory and it worked.
There's nothing wrong with that. And by the way, for anybody listening, if that's your initial motivation to get more involved or to get involved at all with the organization, fantastic. Doesn't matter what your motivation is. Let's face it, most everybody in the organization is not running a nonprofit. We're here to feed our families, and at the same token, of course, do right by our client base and their awesome employees. But we can't be in business if we're not profitable. So if your motivation is to join because you want to hopefully use it as a way to grow the business the way that Kelly just said, then I'm all for it. And it's interesting because I interviewed Patricia a couple of years ago, one of your predecessors. I interviewed Eugene last year, and many others that are part of the organization. And I'll spare everybody because this is about you, not me. But my story for not ever being a member was just sheer ignorance. If ignorance is so bliss, why aren't there more happy people? And I just was. Ignorance is uneducated. I was just being stupid. I wasn't taking the time to learn. And there was year after year after year when I was in the carrier world. I'm a recovering carrier rep these days, last 8-10 years. But the reality is I just didn't know any better. I didn't know that carrier reps could join, even though I wasn't an independent broker at the time. And then when I became an independent broker, I didn't even understand or care. I just wanted to double down and sell insurance and make money and feed my family. And like I said, I mean, I said it before on the show, and I don't know if you've ever heard it, but I owe a debt of gratitude to Nama and Megan Chiarello and
Oh yeah.
so many others. Those two are the biggest ones. And Rachel Miner, they were all getting on me years ago when they first met me. And they were saying, why aren't you a member? Why aren't you a member? Then I joined. I didn't know why I joined, but I joined. And I still wasn't involved. And then I don't know, all of a sudden it hit me like a brick. A light bulb went off. And I just kept getting more and more and more involved. And you hit the nail spot on the head, man. And I think it applies to anything in life. You get out of it what you put into it. So
There's a
the
second
more
part of that. There's a second part I want to get to.
Sure.
I think it's important to add to all of this. And it's after I did get involved in these leadership positions at the local chapter, the state chapter level, I started meeting people from all across this country.
Yep.
I got a chance to go to CAP conference. I always attended the annual conventions because they were just wonderful events. And I fell in love with this organization, literally fell in love with it because of its professional development, the learning tools that were available to help me come back and be better for the clients that I serve. And so it's that element that helped me grow my business because I fell in love with this organization and the people from all across this nation. I have technically they're competitors of mine, right?
Sure.
But they are my best friends, and getting together with them at least twice a year, once in Washington, D.C. at CAP conference, and then wherever we're going to have our annual convention. This next year will be in New Orleans, or this coming year in New Orleans. It's like having a huge family reunion. We're hugging each other's necks. We're having dinner together. We're having drinks together, remembering old times and talking about just the common things that we deal with in our different geographies. And we share the secret sauce with each other on how we can be better. And that's how we grow our business.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, for me and for I think anybody that gets involved, it's not, look, I would say it's not just this organization, it's anything. You get out of it what you put into it. And the more I kept putting in, the more time I spent, the more events I went to, the more times that I was asked, and I'm grateful for it. I was asked to be part of big national webinars over the last few years for NAHU. The more I got out of it. And I didn't even know what I was doing. It was just an accident. But I'm very grateful that those folks stayed on me. And in turn, you know what? I've stayed on other folks that are not members and or are members, but they've admittedly told me, I don't know why you're so involved, or it's just another association. I have personally stayed on them to the extent that that those before me have stayed on me. And I haven't turned everybody yet. If you're listening, I got you. You're coming up. But I have turned some others to get more involved. And I think that's important that we all kind of stick together and try to spread the good word accordingly. Now, let me ask you this. So you got involved. You became you took over for Eugene this past national convention in June of 2022. And tell us, for those that already know, and a lot of people probably don't know, tell us what your goals and initiatives were coming into your presidency, and tell us what you've accomplished and what you still have left to do before your term ends here in the middle of 2023 at National Convention in New Orleans.
So thank you for that. And you're using some terminology that I'm going to try to go back and correct just a little bit.
Please.
What are you wanting to do? We've got to stop the conversation about this being about you, about me. What do I want? Because this is a team. We have a great board of directors, and instead of every year a president coming in place and trying to exert what they specifically want to have happen, because every year that's going to change. And we've got to be on the track where we have several successions of leadership in this organization, where there's some commonality, where we can, run the relay, hand the baton off to the next president.
I like that.
The president continues the work toward the goals that we have all set.
That's good.
Yeah, and so this organization, it has a
Wait.
phenomenal
So back up. Did you, because and you'll have to remind everybody how it works with what you do before you're president, but back up, because I love what you just said. I never knew that. So did you and Eugene and Patricia and all the folks over the years, did you at some point all get together years ago and say, here's what we can agree as a team, leadership team, we would love to accomplish, and we would all like to continue that baton passing, as you said? Did that type of meeting ever occur?
It has, and it started occurring about 4 years ago, where we get in a room, we talk about these strategic goals that we have as an organization and how we're going to stay on track to get to those goals. And yes, Eugene, the name change wasn't an idea that originated with me. It was something that's always been out there for as long as I can remember. 5, 10, even 10 years ago, we'd be at a town hall meeting at an annual convention, and somebody would get up and say, hey, health underwriters, why don't we change our name to something that's better? And, we were just in a status quo state of mind at that time, like, no. Everybody knows who we are in Washington, D.C. by our current name, even though health underwriters was becoming more and more irrelevant. So really, when we think about the name change, that kind of was something that Eugene started and finished during his presidency. We voted on it as a board, put it in place, and the effective date was January 1st. So that's not me. I can't take credit for that. That was something that was started by the great board of directors that we've had over the course of the last 4 or 5 years that's been moving this needle. Because if we're going to move this needle forward on fixing healthcare, because really that's what, when you think about what I want to do, 20 years from now, when future industry leaders look back on these times, I'd love for them to be able to give us credit in some form or fashion that, we can wear the t-shirt that says, I fixed healthcare. I did that.
I would love that.
Now, I'm not going to say we're going to fix healthcare before we get to the end of my term.
Goals, I like it. Big, hairy goals.
Because of the things that we did at CAP conference and that we continue to do legislatively, that we're going to have a huge effect on fixing healthcare. And we think about all the organizations that are out there that we could go, that I go to, that you go to, everything from, we have ASCEND, we have Q4I, we have the Free Market Medical Association, Health Rosetta.
UPowers, Benefit Pro, there's so many.
Yeah, and I love those meetings. But when we get together in those environments versus what we do at NABIP is the same kind of get together. We're a very diverse group of people because NABIP includes all the Medicare people, the individual ACA people, large group, small group, everything about health insurance. But these other organizations aren't effective in any sort of legislative role from an advocacy perspective.
Sure.
NABIP is the component, the only organization, the largest organization of its kind that gets involved from an advocacy standpoint legislatively to try to protect what we do, protecting our clients, help them make smarter financial decisions, and protecting this industry as a whole.
So, give me something. I'm a benefit advisor. I'm a broker. I'm a consultant. I'm a carrier rep. I'm a vendor that sells to brokers and employers in the benefit space. I'm listening to the show right now. I'm intrigued. I'm not a member, or I'm a member and I'm not involved. What's one, short of becoming a member, obviously, what's one thing that maybe two that you could share that you would encourage them to start with, if they're going to get started somewhere to be more involved in the year 2023 as they're listening to this show? What's one or two things that you would give them as advice coming up through the ranks over the last many years that would be impactful, not only for them, but also for the organization as a whole?
I think I go back to the professional development that we do for the agent. We have an amazing array of courses and certifications, industry certifications that you can get involved with. And I don't think you can ever be too smart in this industry. The more you know, the better you're able to serve your client. And that's where I would suggest that people start, is get involved, because you may or may not have a local chapter where you live. Obviously, if there's a local chapter where you live, you want to seek them out and start attending any meetings that they may have, luncheons, breakfast meetings. Because right now I'm in the process of traveling all over the nation, attending these state symposiums where you can get CE credits in your state. We have these certifications that you can also get: self-funded certification, Medicare certification. We also have an E&O program if you're looking for an affordable and very applicable E&O for what you do specifically. We're going to be making some changes in our E&O program where it's very affordable and very high level, to the extent that it will give you those things. Because again, our health insurance industry is changing what we do for our clients. Like, we're going to help clients and advise them when it comes to certain things that are compliance related. A lot of E&O carriers don't extend their coverage when we start talking about the scope of what we do when it comes to helping our clients understand compliance issues around COBRA, 125, ERISA, all those things. And so we're now going to be with a E&O carrier that will allow us to have coverage extend into those areas that are part of our scope of what we do for our clients. So those are the things that are the value of membership, and all the other things that's going to come with it that helps you better serve your client. If you get involved legislatively and you go to the National Capital Conference in Washington, D.C., that's where you kind of get the bug, so to speak, if you're anywhere legislatively minded. And those things we talk about with legislators, we march on the Hill and speak to our legislators about how to fix healthcare. And then they all, sometimes they will go in there and implement some of those things, ideas that we suggest. And you are the first to know on these things that are changing. And you're the first to be able to go back to your clients or potential clients and use that to your advantage. Really, ultimately, I guess at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is help the agent either win or keep a client.
Sure. So let's talk about National Convention. It's in June of 2023. So those listening to the show, assuming you're listening in, I'm not sure when this episode will be aired, probably in late March, very early April. You got plenty of time, no excuse, plenty of time to get registered to attend in New Orleans. It's going to be a great time, both business and personal wise, to have some fun. Talk about this year's event. Talk about it to the folks listening that they're not going. As of this moment, they don't think they want to go. They don't need to go. Anybody listening that's going to go, they're going already. And I appreciate those listening, and there's a lot of you. But let's focus in on those who aren't going. Sure. or haven't been in years. Why should they spend their money and their time to attend?
Well, I'll start off by talking about last year's convention.
Okay.
So if you were at last year's convention, you saw some speakers, some amazing speakers that came and talked about some of the new disruptive elements that's occurring in health insurance. You got to hear Marty McCary. You got to hear Marshall Allen, who is the author of the book, Never Pay the First Bill, which has kind of turned into one of our, what I would identify as our new industry Bible.
Marshall's a RockstarsRocking podcast alum. Shameless plug. Anyway, keep going.
They just got involved with him on his video series.
Yep.
As a CE for those people that need more CE elements for their for some of their licenses that they have or in certification. Sure. So that's a great thing. This year, I can announce that our speakers are going to be right in line with that. We're going to have Dr. Keith Smith from the Surgical Center of Oklahoma City, who is also a co-founder of the Free Market Medical Association. If you don't know about Keith Smith, I would ask you to just Google the Surgical Center of Oklahoma City, one of the very first surgical centers that has a menu of pricing on their website for bundled all-in surgical services. If you're doing any self-funded type of health insurance, you likely already know about Dr. Keith Smith and his surgical center there in Oklahoma City, working with plans lowering claim costs for surgeries. We also are going to have another awesome speaker, Dave Chase with Health Rosetta is going to be there. And if you know anything about Dave Chase, you know about the books that he has written that have been in my own personal life, just an amazing eye opener when it comes to how healthcare has stolen the American dream and how we as agents have this huge opportunity to literally save America when it comes to the cost of healthcare and putting money back into employees' pockets instead of having healthcare be responsible for wage stagnation in so many of our communities. And I'm so much looking forward to those two individuals being at this conference. And if you don't come, you will miss an incredible, life-changing event, in my opinion.
You know, I've had the privilege and pleasure of hearing many of the folks you just mentioned speak before. And every time I hear them speak, I learn something new because like any big time professional, sharp individual, they're always learning themselves more and developing themselves and bringing more to their talks, their speeches, their keynotes, their panel discussions, whatever it may be. So I want to remind everybody that, because quite candidly, a lot of times some of the folks, at least in our industry, and I bet it applies to most things, you might have said, well, I heard him 4 years ago. Okay, well, a lot has changed in the last 4 years. So you want to hear it again, and you want to also hear the new tidbits of useful information. But here's the thing. For anybody listening that's not sure, or they haven't heard, or they're not that quite understanding, you mentioned some rock stars. I mean, Marshall Allen and Dave Chase are all former Rockstars Rocking podcast alum. So check out their episodes, RockstarsRocking.com, if you want to get a preview or a reminder of what they stand for and what they talk about. And I've never heard the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. I've never heard him speak, but I'm excited to, and I'm going to be there this year, of course. But I first learned about him and his company through Dave Contorno, who video blogged his entire hernia surgery a few years ago and talked about how amazing the experience was, how affordable it was, and yes, the menu of pricing. Kelly, will we ever get to a point where every hospital and surgery center has it up on the menu board, so to speak, like if you're going in to buy a burger and fries? Like, is that ever going to occur?
You know, we have all this transparency stuff that's out there right now, and we just need more teeth and more policing of these hospital systems, I think, in that area, in that space. But more and more surgical centers are going to be I'm seeing more and more surgical centers becoming more transparent. You know, where I live locally in rural Texas, Wichita Falls is a rural community. And our local hospital system here has PPO agreements with the carriers that basically, let's use like a gallbladder procedure, the carriers will agree to pay that local hospital facility here in Wichita Falls around $40,000 to $46,000 for a gallbladder procedure. But I'm blessed to be pretty geographically close to Oklahoma City, so I can send all of my self-funded clients to Oklahoma City and ask them to outmigrate 2 hours north of me to Dr. Keith Smith's surgical center and have that same gallbladder procedure done for $6,800. Look it up. It's on the website, the Surgical Center of Oklahoma City. The menu for a gallbladder procedure is $6,800. And when you're trying to implement a high-performing health insurance plan for a large employer, the claim difference between $46,000 and $6,800, big difference.
Huge.
To the extent that I've got enough money, I can pay for my employees travel there and back,
right,
hotel room, pre and post-op, food while they're there, and even send them on a vacation to Hawaii and still have money left over.
A lot of money left over.
Yeah, let's face it, these PPOs, I truly believe in 7 to 10 years, they're only going to be an option for the truly elite wealthy to have if they're going to continue to be on this track that they're on price wise. And so we've got to start doing something about that. We've got to start doing more education with our clients. And so that's what all this is about. And Dr. Keith Smith has an amazing story to tell about how he set his practice up and how that hospital system works and how the Free Market Medical Association operates by taking a buyer of healthcare and a seller of healthcare and putting them together and cutting out all of the middle that exists between the two buyers.
That's a heck of a difference, 46,000 to 6,800. That's insane, and in the best way possible. And the sad reality is, I would say there's still a majority of employers out there, mid, large, and mega, that don't even get it. They don't realize it. They don't understand it, or they'll tell you they do, but they don't do anything to fix it or change it or implement a difference. Look, and we can go on for hours, but as we start to wrap up, I want to ask you. I saw a press release back in January that Janet Troutwine's stepping down at the end of this year. I'm disappointed because I think she's done an amazing job. I've only had the opportunity and privilege to meet her a couple times, and I have not had a long conversation with her, but I know you've known her very deeply for years, and you work hand in hand with her right now. Talk about what that means to NABIP and the impact it's going to have, and the future with her successor, whomever that may be.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. I've known Janet from prior to her going to work for the organization.
Oh, really?
Yep. I was able to meet her at my first annual convention in Keystone, Colorado, back whenever she was just an agent.
Wow.
Living here in Texas, and she was.
Oh, I didn't even know she was from Texas.
Yeah, she down in the Austin and San Antonio area is where she came from, but she went to work for NAHU at that time. And she has been with this organization for 26 amazing years and has done some amazing work for this association, positioning us as one of the leading advocacy organizations when it comes to legislative items. We write papers for legislators and different organizations, our coalition partners. So yeah, we're gonna miss Janet, but I also think that we're in a place where we have a new name, we have a new future, a new CEO that we can recruit. Right now, the executive committee of NABIP is getting ready to start conducting interviews. We've had over 300 strong CEOs that have applied for this position.
Are you part of the team that's looking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. This is being the president of NABIP is kind of like having another full-time job. It really is. But I love what we're doing, and I love the fact that we're going to be able to get a new CEO, a strong CEO that's going to pick up where Janet has left off and take us to new levels that we've not yet seen. I just believe that we have some great opportunities ahead of us with this new name and with a new leader and with a new future. So I believe that our greatest days are ahead of us, again, as we try to continue to move the needle on fixing healthcare.
I noticed in the press release in the PR Newswire in January that the goal is for everybody to have a new person in place to announce in New Orleans. Do you still believe that's possible at this point?
I believe that we're going to be able to make an announcement that we've secured a new CEO. We're going to actually be in Washington, D.C. conducting one-on-one interviews at the beginning of May. So from that list of 350 that gets whittled down to maybe 6 or 7, we'll conduct those interviews in May. And we may not be able to tell you who it is because there's this period maybe called a secret period or a silent period where the person that we're hiring is also maybe trying to come out of another organization, and they need some time to be able to do that. And so we have to kind of keep this in a place of confidentiality to allow that CEO that might be coming out of another organization to do that without having a lot of negative disruption occur in that organization.
That makes sense.
So, but yeah, the idea is for us to be able to announce in New Orleans that we have secured a new CEO. And if we're able to announce the name of the person there, we will. If we're not, we've got to respect the new CEO's silent period. And then the idea would be that that new CEO would actually begin maybe in the month of September or October, ideally, and have a little bit of overlap with Janet's leaving at the end of December, so that there's that transfer of knowledge and history
Sure.
and direction. And that transition of knowledge needs to take place as well.
Sure, sure. And I was going to ask about that, but I like that she's sticking around through the end of the year so she can help extend that to the new person and whomever for whoever that might be. For those listening, we appreciate you listening. If you have any questions for Kelly, by all means, he's not hard to reach. Heck, his name and email and phone are in every single America's Benefit Specialist. It's on the NABIP website, or you could just message him on social media, or if you really can't find it, and that's going to be hard to do, just send me a note and I'm happy to connect you. Kelly, before we let everybody get on with their day, and we appreciate them listening, appreciate you coming on, are there any parting words of wisdom or anything you want to extend to somebody listening that I don't know, I feel like there's probably folks listening, maybe they're not having the best week or the best month or the best quarter or the best year. I mean, it's almost well, not almost, but it'll be the end of the first quarter by the time this gets released. And maybe somebody listening is just not having the kick, what year that they were anticipating. You've probably been in those positions before. What's something that gets you out of a funk if you're ever in a business funk? Something you could share with somebody as parting words of wisdom.
Well, you're right. I mean, I can count on all of my hands and feet the times that I've thought about getting out of this business because I was having a bad cycle. Mm-hmm. But just know that these are cycles and they don't last. There are cycles of just phenomenal, awesome things that will occur in your life. The thing that I like the most about my job, I think we have the best job in the world. The thing I like about my job best is that every day when I get up, yep, I have what I've got on my calendar to get done, but there's always something that happens during the day that is unexpected. This morning, Eric, I've already had a client come in and bring us some pay stub information to upload to the marketplace to verify income. And in that conversation, she shared with me that she has an appointment next week to see an oncologist because she may have leukemia. And there were tears in her eyes, and we just stopped. She's having healthcare anxiety, not knowing how her insurance is really going to work, wanting us to kind of hold her hand through some of this. And I assured her that I will. And it's that sort of thing that keeps me coming back every single day, kind of like in the game of golf. We always have games that you're like, I'm done. I'm going to put my clubs in the garage. I'm never playing this game again. Had a horrible game. But that one shot that you hit that just soars out there, just like if you were on TV, it's that shot that keeps you coming back.
Sure.
So those are the things that I think that's what keeps me coming back every day in this job is the wonderful people that I get to meet, the wonderful influence that I get to have in their lives, the friendships that I make all across this country in this organization. That's what keeps me coming back. So hopefully if you're in a funk, think about those things and know that it's not the end of the world. It's going to change and it's going to get better. It just is.
I couldn't agree more. And that is the perspective you have to have. The highest paid athletes and professionals in the world, they go through funks themselves. And in our business, I love what you just said, because it is true. You could be having the worst day ever, but then you have a situation pop up. And I've been there too. We've all have our own situations where a client has come to us with their big problem and they need us to be there to support them. And when you hear their story, it really reminds you of the big picture why of what you're doing and how you're helping people. Yes, you're making a heck of a good living a lot of times, and yeah, you're having a lot of fun a lot of times. But the real true perspective is when you're able to tell them that they have the right coverage in place, and you're gonna shepherd them through their entire situation and their journey to get better and to heal. So listen, Kelly, I appreciate you, man. You've said it all. I can't thank you enough for coming on. For those,
man.
yeah, man. For those that need information, it'll be in the show notes. We'll have Kelly's contact information. We'll have information on how to get registered and where to go to learn more about National Convention in New Orleans. And actually, you know, shame on me for not knowing, but I'm not going to make a mistake and just say I know and I don't. Who's your predecessor? I just can't remember.
Eric Colesdorf.
Perfect. Eric, I'm calling you out, buddy. Eric, if you're listening this time next year or earlier, you're the next contestant on the Price. Wait, wrong one. You're the next person on the Rockstars Rocking podcast. I certainly hope. So, Kelly, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. For those listening, look, I appreciate you, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for my team putting this together on the back end. All I do is show up and ask some questions and smile and nod and have some fun. So for everybody behind the scenes at the Rockstars Rockin' podcast, I'm Eric Silverman. That is, was, and still the one, the only Kelly Fristoe, president of NABIP and president of Financial Partners out of Wichita Falls, Texas. And that's it, guys. I'll see you next week on another Rockstars Rockin' episode. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Rockstars Rocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, Rockstars, keep rocking.